You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio. Welcome, listeners, to another episode of All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast here on BQN and the Fandom Podcast Network. I am your host, Amy, and with me today, full house, Mark, Christos, and Kelvin. Well, hello, guys. Christos, I'm back.
Hey, we missed you.
Oh, it's been a couple weeks. I had summer vacation start, so I was off down to Cabo for a week, and life happens.
Between your schedule and my schedule, it's amazing that we're both here the same week.
Right? Oh my gosh, it's a busy time. Well, Mark, hello.
Hi, Amy. Welcome back. Nice to see you.
Yeah. So you are working on getting Cinema Z out. How's that going?
Oh, it's a labor of love. And I thought, going into it, I was like, we'll do maybe bi-weekly and we'll get a couple of episodes in the can and then I'll just be less busy. Yeah, no. I don't know how, but I still have a full workload, even not releasing weekly. And I'm like, how is this possibly happening?
Yeah.
Because I'm still back-to-back editing things and planning new episodes and, script writing and picking art and all the fun stuff that goes along with it. Thankfully, I get a good team and they've been very helpful as well. So that's good, but it's still a lot of work.
Yeah, and a little spoiler, you asked me to join you for episode 3. It was such an honor, and I'm looking forward to having that released.
I just wanted somebody on that liked the movie. No. Laz picked the episode that Amy's on, and it was Shop Girl. And I didn't necessarily dislike the film, but it wasn't exactly one that I loved. And I didn't want to be the one to poo-poo everybody's party while we were discussing the film. So Laz had mentioned he wanted to have a female perspective on anyway. So I thought I'd extend the invite to Amy. And she ended up, I think, enjoying the movie more than I did. It seemed like you did.
Yeah, after the discussion and making the connections to real life relationships, I thought it was a really good discussion, at least. So. Probably a better discussion than the movie.
Yeah, we're in agreement.
And Calvin, hello, my dear.
Hello, my love. It's so nice to see you after a few weeks. I love how Mark's playing the sympathy card because he's got 2 podcasts to do, and Amy's, you're sat there going, yes, you have about 10.
2, 3, come on now. Well, you guys, I just wanted to wish you a happy Pride Month. I wasn't here at the beginning of the month. And listeners, I feel because of my relationships with this big queer network that I am a much better ally because I know you. And I just love each of you so much. And thank you for making me a better person and giving me the space and the security and the comfort to ask questions. I have asked you guys a lot of weird things that I've come across. And with that safe place, I've learned more and I feel that I've been better. So thank you.
Oh, getting me all teary-eyed on a Sunday morning, Amy. Thank you for being a friend.
It's straight people always have a difficult time with certain subject matter related to the queer culture. And that's understandable. It's not something that you discuss on a regular basis, but for the queer community as a whole, some of the topics we get into and just our average like cocktail party conversations would make a good Christian woman clutch her pearls.
Yes.
Most of the time.
Fortunately, we've got Amy, and she's absolutely fine with it. And we love you. Thank you for being our token heterosexual.
I was going to say, Mark, have you heard some of the things that come out of Amy's mouth? I mean, she holds her own. So kudos to Amy.
Well, now it's time for All Good World.
From Las Vegas to Boston, USA to Canada and South America. From the United Kingdom to South Africa. From Russia to Australia, the South Pacific and beyond. This is All Good World.
Each episode, we highlight a different location around the globe where this podcast has reached. Today's episode, we'd love to give a special shout out to the home of New Trek, actually, Toronto, Canada. Fun fact, Toronto is one of the centers of Canada's film and television industry, due in part to lower cost of production in Canada. The city's streets and landmarks are seen in a variety of films, mimicking the scenes of American cities such as Chicago and New York. The city provides a diversity of settings and neighborhoods to shoot films, with production facilitated by Toronto's Film and Television Office. So, yeah, we got to thank the lovely city of Toronto, Canada, for bringing some of these shows that we love to life, like Strange New Worlds that we're discussing today.
Have any of you guys been to Toronto? You have.
I've been to Toronto on a family vacation when I was like in the first or second grade.
Oh.
But I literally just inked a business trip there for October. Like, so I haven't been since I was probably it's probably been 35 years. And now I'm actually going back in October for work.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm like, and they're talking about I think they rebooked production to begin on season 3 of Strange New Worlds in September. They're just kind of hedging that the writer's strike will be done. So they're because it takes a while to start that engine, right? To get everything going. So, so when I go in October, they should be shooting season 3. So I might have to do my big old stalker, figure out where these people hang out and just show up.
Heck yeah.
I wonder if they do tours of Pinewood Studios. Do you think?
That's a good point. I don't know.
Pinewood in London or Pinewood in Toronto?
Pinewood in Toronto is actually where they shoot Strange New Worlds and Discovery.
I didn't know it was called Pinewood. That's the name of our famous studio here in London, where we do all the James Bond films and everything.
Wow.
And Star Wars.
And Star Wars.
Absolutely. Let's stay on brand.
Actually, I saw a really cool photo just yesterday on the interwebs. It was an aerial photo from when they filmed Batman 1989 at Pinewood in England. And they built this huge, literally it built a whole city street. It was massive. And it's that scene, of course, at the end of the bell tower and everything. But I was like, that's pretty cool. Especially with all this, Batman 89 stuff coming back this week with the Flash movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know where I'll be Thursday. Strange New Worlds in the morning, Flash in the evening.
Okay.
I have a strange question, if I may, just very quickly. Why is everything filmed in Canada? Is it just cheaper than in LA? Right, okay. Because it used to be Vancouver, didn't it? Everything used to be over there. I remember when I used to watch Smallville, that was always filmed in Vancouver.
And X-Files.
And I believe Battlestar Galactica as well as Vancouver.
Correct.
All about the dollar.
You don't happen to think we have a podcast of nerds here.
Or instead of dollar, it's all about the loonies and the toonies. Eh? There we go.
Well, talking about Thursday is Strange New World Season 2 coming out, which is the day that this episode drops. Well, how fitting of us.
Our listeners are very confused. They thought they'd be in the Mirror universe this week. They probably already watched the episodes.
Right.
Oops, my bad, boo.
Oops. Well, we did, want to talk about Strange New World, sort of give a breakdown of what we learned from season 1 and what we're looking forward to in season 2. So I want to ask, any of you going to do any watch parties? Fortunately, the Star Trek locals here in Las Vegas, we're all going to gather and watch the episode together. I'm going to bring some lovely wine. We're going to have Star Trek dishes, as we always do, a potluck. So the question is, do I watch the episode before going to the watch party, or do I wait and experience it for the first time with everyone? Kelvin, shaking your head.
Before, like your favorite soon type android in Nemesis.
Yes.
It's made me laugh and remember that for episode 1 of Picard season 3, I went to a watch party, and every individual member, we all said, "Oh, we're going to watch it together." And everybody was lying. We all watched it before. And we were even maintaining the lie while watching it. And someone put their foot in it, mentioned something that was further ahead. It went, excuse me. But we were all, after we joked about it, we're collectively glad that was the second viewing. You pick up different details. So immerse yourself personally. Have a little bit of you time with your wine on the sofa. Enjoy it, and actually you get to celebrate your friends a little bit more if that's the focus of you being there rather than engrossing in the episode.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
I concur with everything he just said. When Discovery first started back in 2017, I quickly started having literally the watch parties at my place were 10, 15 people, and you weren't following anything. It was just too much chatter, too much talk. And then, started learning, well, if I watch it ahead of time, it doesn't really matter. And
right.
I just pick up on a lot more things that maybe I missed the first time. So yes, I think rules for Star Trek. Now, if you're ever going to watch with 2 or 3 people, maybe you can get away with not having seen it because you can say, hey, shut up and pay attention.
Yeah.
But I like what Kelvin said. You want to you don't want to just get to the point where you're just watching TV with your friend, but it doesn't matter that your friend's in the room because you're so focused, you're not listening.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so.
Yeah. So are you guys doing anything for Thursday season 2 premiere?
I am picking up, I think, the second week doing that, but I do have tickets to see The Flash Thursday night. So I'm watching My Strange New Worlds in the morning, a la the way I did Picard season 3. And then before I go to work, and then I'm going to watch the new Flash movie at the theater after work.
Very good.
I'm having quite a romantic night on Thursday because it's James's birthday on Thursday. So we'll be having our lovely romantic dinner, and then we'll watch Strange New Worlds. Or maybe we'll do it in the different order because I think I'll enjoy the food more after rather than shoveling it down really quickly so we can get to Star Trek. But yeah, right. I'll be celebrating with him on Thursday.
Oh, wonderful. Mark?
Well, since Picard aired, I've since adjusted my work schedule. So I'm going in quite a bit earlier than I was and getting out quite a bit earlier. So because of that, I will be able to just, rush home, say hi to my dog, and then pop it on TV once I get home. And it will be, still early enough in the day where I probably won't get bombarded with too many spoilers. Fingers crossed. I'll just stay off the internet anyway.
Yeah. For sure.
I'll be at work. I don't need to be on the internet.
Yeah. Will Andy get to watch it with you?
Possibly, but he does work quite a bit. So we'll see.
Yeah. Very good. Well, let's go through who's the crew. What did we learn about them from season 1? We have our captain, Christopher Pike. And right from the get-go, we know that he enjoys his downtime in Bear Creek, Montana, sort of a la Kirk with his cabin and wilderness and stuff like that. And I know it's silly to talk about, but we know he has had 2 relationships. Captain Patel, who he saw twice in the season, and then Alora. She was that person that was the first servant child, and she was helping him, save the community type of thing. And he had a relationship with Alora.
I find it fascinating that that's what we've gone straight into for Pike. Is that what stood out most?
I'm still focused on the fact that he loves horses. He grew up in the desert, I believe, right?
Mojave.
Mojave.
Is that in Arizona?
California?
We are.
Oh, it's in California?
Yeah.
I have to drive right through it to go to STLV.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, yeah, he grew up in the desert and he has had horses in his life. And his very first horse, it's a secret you're not supposed to tell, was named Sir Nasalot.
Yes.
But he didn't tell anybody.
So,
Nope.
yeah. So for Pike, what I'm really looking forward to is, okay, so this is actually going to be our third season of Pike, right? We had him in Discovery season 2. So Pike is probably one of the most fleshed out characters we have so far, or we've seen more of him and Spock. Not so much Una. We have a little bit of Una, but anyways, with Pike, I'm glad that the focus in season 1 was so much about him dealing with knowing his fate. And that was so much of his season 1 thing. So I'm glad they kind of bookended that at the end of season 1. And hoping that we're going to see, a little bit more jovial, a little bit more into it, a little bit more fun Pike, not so introspective, not so like, what does this all mean? And, because that's what a lot of his season 1 journey was. And a lot of his conversations, his character building was his evolution of dealing with the idea that he knows what's going to happen to him. So that's what I'm, my thoughts for Pike are hopefully he's kind of let that go and we'll see Pike get back to being Pike.
I think you're right. I think they put that to bed at the end of season 1. Like if there's any kind of an arc for season 1, that was his arc of dealing with that knowledge, like you said. And I think that they did that on purpose to get it out of the way so they could just go forward.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what about Una Chin Riley? What did we learn about her?
Well, on Discovery, she had a really bad wig that she didn't like, and they got rid of it for season 1 of Strange New Worlds. So I actually liked the wig. Sorry. I thought it was cute.
She had a
More
few.
curls.
She had different wigs in Short Treks in the Turbo Lift episode. So they kind of did a bit of a Janeway and went all around the hairstylists before they landed on the one they wanted. But what she was in, absolutely. But what she was in season 1, I think it took like 10 years off her. That original kind of wavy hair that she had on Discovery, it didn't suit her. I think it made her look more like Majel, but actually coming in as Rebecca Romaine playing the character. And I love, she either had the downdo or the updo during season 1. I loved it when she had the beehive. I just think amazing.
Yeah, same.
But so with Una, okay, so we didn't see, one of the critiques of season 1 was that we didn't see a lot of her. She was actually sidelined quite a bit in several episodes and just not around very much. And it's actually true. I mean, there's several episodes where they find a reason to get her off screen pretty early in the episode, and she kind of comes back at the end. So I hope that, that's not going to be the case, but we get to learn more about her. And obviously we're starting off, the biggest question is, what's going to happen to Una as the way season 1 ends. So, she basically, it is revealed in episode 3 that she is an Illyrian, and because of that, she lied to Starfleet when she on her application to Starfleet, and so she's up for court-martial right now. Is where we left her. And Pike and others can be potentially culprit because they knew after episode 3 something I didn't think about very much. Is like, yes, a couple of people did know that, and they didn't, so are they, colluding, whatever you want to call that, accomplices to that? So there could be some ramifications for some of our other characters, including Pike. So looking forward, though, to seeing how that is resolved.
And what about kind of Captain Battelle and her involvement? Because she was obviously the arresting officer. And from the preview, she seems to be the prosecuting officer in the court-martial scenes as well. So is she still going to be on very familiar terms with Captain Pike after she's just done over his first officer? I certainly wouldn't go back to her if she'd done that to me.
Yeah, I feel like by the time we're done with Captain Battelle, none of us are going to like her.
Well, I'm looking forward. Yeah, I'm looking forward to a good courtroom drama episode. So I want to see that. It's been a long time since we've had something amazing like Drumhead or Measure of a Man.
And how do you think of those dress uniforms looked in that clip?
Oh,
they're gorgeous.
Oh my God.
take my money.
And the thing is what they did was they went back to what did TOS do? Let's elevate that. And that is something that I wish they would have did with Discovery, but they didn't.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a course correction for sure. And one of the reasons I think Strange New Worlds is succeeding, because you do feel the similarities. It doesn't feel completely distant.
Well, and we also learn with Una that she has a previous history with La'an, Noonien Soong. So we get to see that friendship develop. And I think that's going to be really, a core friendship that I want to see more of, like a Data and Geordi. That's what I want.
Some of the scenes together in season 1 are my favorite scenes. The whole kind of the beast plot of the signing of the Scorch and Enterprise bingo. I just love for very serious characters, they do comedy very well. Chrissy Chong and Rebecca Romaine are both fabulous actresses, and I just want more of that chemistry.
Yeah, and I love the female representation of just having 2 females on screen that are getting along. It's not all about talking about a guy, because that is, that's all they made Troy and Beverly get together for most of the time, was when they had guy problems and needed to have a sidebar. But they're showing them and they're having a work relationship and they're having a friendship. And it's not all centered around a man. So I love that.
And there was that one episode, the Illyrian Kingdom, where there was a little bit more than a friendship there. You could read between the lines in that one. It was written very ambiguously, but they seemed to know each other intimately in that alternate reality.
I forgot about that. All right. Well, what do we learn about Spock? Talking about fleshed out characters. I mean, he's just everywhere. So what do we learn from season 1?
Season 1, episode 1, we learn he looks amazing without his top on.
Indeed we do.
Yeah. Spock is like the minefield I get. I want to say there's obviously of all the characters, and there's a few repeats like Uhura and whatnot, Nurse Chapel, but Spock has had the most in canon that they have to like watch him like a minefield. And I feel like, this thing that they've been teasing with Nurse Chapel, for example, a lot of people don't like it because it potentially violates canon. They're really dancing on the edge of canon and what has come before. And we do see a kiss in the preview for season 2. So I don't know. We'll see where they go with it, but I like it. I think they have a lot of chemistry, but there's a lot of people who are on canon watch with what they're doing here.
Okay, but wait a minute. In TOS, Nurse Chapel reveals her love for Spock. I am in love with you, the Vulcan man. I'm in love with you, the human man. Like she says that in TOS.
Right. So it's always been portrayed as her having a thing for him, not that it was two-way, not that they actually may have had a prior relationship, which they may be. We got to be careful. You never know with season 2. There could be extenuating circumstances. They might be under the influence of something. You never know. So I don't want to judge too quickly. Okay. But there is a lot of people watching. Like that's what I'm hearing a lot of chatter about. Are they going to violate canon? Or stretch it?
Well, they're already stretching it with having Kirk on.
Yeah.
Because
I'm not sure how I feel about that in general.
They did say in the original series that he had met him once in the academy or something like that. And it's like, okay.
Well, we'll see how much. That's another thing too. We're gonna have to wait and see how much Kirk we actually get. And people are acting like he's a regular cast member. I have a feeling he's in like one episode, and this is all just misdirects and blow-ups and stuff. He's not in any. They dropped all those cast photos. They dropped, the posters. He's not in any of that. So I don't think he's a major character this season.
Here's hoping. But his brother could be on it again as like a more recurring role.
Yes, I like his brother. He's hot.
So we do know Spock is engaged to T'Pring, and if we go with canon, this is not going to work out, and it breaks my heart because I absolutely freaking love T'Pring. I love the actor. I love her character. I love her interaction with this Spock. She's perfect for him, and I want them to be together.
But remember, even in the original series, she had a thing for Stan.
Yes.
Right? His name's Stan. And we've already been introduced to Stan, and we've seen him in a couple episodes now in the background. So
No.
I think their relationship's probably going to develop a little bit more this season as well.
I find it amazing that of the two emotionless characters in Strange New World, they were the actual comic relief of Strange New Worlds. Spock and Serene Squall, which I kind of view as like almost a two-part episode because of the B plots with Spock and T'Pring.
Right, yeah.
And they're my two favorite episodes of season 1. And just, you're right, Amy, the actress who plays T'Pring is so deadpan in the delivery of her lines, and her comedy timing is magnificent. So yeah, we don't want her to run off with Ston because we want her around. And I'm really conflicted because I'm really here for Spock and Chapel, regardless of canon, because I love their chemistry. But for that to happen, it means T'Pring needs to jog on, and I don't want that. I want my cake and eat it.
I know. She is definitely going to go down as one of our best Vulcan characters, Vulcan female characters, especially.
Yeah.
Now, why? I just had an idea. Why don't they become a throuple?
How very progressive of you.
Right? That would be amazing. I think that's the next step we need to go.
And haven't they already like hinted that Nurse Chapel might be bisexual or you know?
It was more than a hint. It was explicit.
Yeah, because she had a relationship with a female.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, there you go. Amy, that worked.
Her.
It seems the logical thing to do.
It does, yes. All right, well, let's move on to Dr. Mbenga, who secretly kept his daughter in a transporter beam. What a story there.
Yeah.
How they got that actor, is it Babs? I can't pronounce his last name. Who is also in Dune. He's an incredible actor, and he's just on this show, and it's like, wow. And I feel like he's bringing so much more to the character than was able to be explored in the 60s with the original actor. So this is fantastic. Love it.
Yeah. I like Dr. Mbenga. I hated the daughter in the transporter. Do you realize that his secret daughter in the transporter is why the Illyrian virus, whatever, wasn't filtered out of the he literally could have killed everybody with his little secret. And he gets like no repercussions for it other than, hey, we know you broke the rules, but we're going to we're going to just give you a workaround so this won't break the rules next time. So honestly, I'm really glad that the whole thing with the daughter and the transporter is done. I feel like, okay, he's kind of a clean slate. We don't know a ton about this guy other than he likes to fish. And so looking forward to hopefully learning more about Dr. Mbenga because, like I said, I really liked him, but I hated what they gave him for a storyline in season 1. I just thought there was too many plot holes in it.
Did you see him in the trailer, like embracing Nurse Chapel? Kinda, they were like really kind of hot and heavy. So, Nurse Chapel she's making the rounds as the nurse, so to speak.
You're lucky she works in sickbay and can treat all her STDs.
I find it difficult because you've got Nurse Chapel, who's in sickbay, and then you have Dr. Mbenga, and they're both so important. I just hope that they can balance it because I sort of feel like we're leaning towards more Nurse Chapel with the storyline. And if he's the CMO, I want to see him be paramount.
Yeah, and it's a really good point because I feel like New Trek has not done. We don't really we didn't even really know who the CMO was on Discovery forever. Yeah, exactly. And so we haven't really. The CMO role and the chief engineer role have not been greatly embraced by New Trek. In fact, they don't seem to even care about
Well
casting
defined.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, or, so it's like, I'm hoping to see that get a little righted. You're right, because if you have two sick bay people, Nurse Chapel is getting a lot more of the screen time. So
Yeah, it's like if Ogawa would have had more screen time, in TNG, it's that whole thing. But I think I gotta speculate that, especially like we're talking about Una and M'Benga here with my same theory is that you got two actors that are kind of high demand actors and they're in a lot of things. So possibly they're not written in as much as they could be because they are in such high demand and they have these other projects going on, is my theory.
I mean, it seems like they're not getting their money's worth if that's if they're wasting the talent by giving them this time off. They're a little bit of a trophy signing. So I would get them doing as much as possible. But I find it interesting that you're so passionate about Dr. M'Benga, Mark, because I'm very much like Christos. I don't dislike him, but season 1 just happened with that story and we've had a reset now. So it's like start again with him. And like we've mentioned about Kirk coming on and how that could steal focus from Pike. And I'm really not here for that because I love Pike so much.
Yeah.
I'm kind of hoping when's McCoy going to arrive? That's kind of what I'm waiting for.
No.
And Dr. M'Benga can just work on the days off.
M'Benga, the Rakia storyline with her becoming pure energy, to me, was gut-wrenching and one of my favorite episodes. It was so light and fluffy and fun. It was one of my favorite all-time Star Trek episodes. I adore that episode. And I mean, everybody seems to have such a problem with her being in the transporter, but I mean, they did the same thing in TNG with keeping Scotty in the transporter buffer. His daughter is his whole world. I don't know what happened with his wife, but his daughter is his world. And he would do anything as a parent for his daughter. And I totally understand that. Like he's out there exploring space pretty much for the purpose of trying to save his daughter. So yeah, you're right, Christos. It's going to be a reset because that's sort of not what he's doing now. But I wasn't one that was hating on the decision because on some level I totally understood why he was doing it.
Okay, so I'm just going to throw it out there. When Troy was taking her command test, the key was to not let anything happen to the crew of the Enterprise. That has to be your number one concern. And so with exactly what you said, Mark, and I agree with you, but his concern is not for the ship. And so there lies that conflict of where is his loyalties. And clearly his loyalties was with his daughters, not faulting him, but he endangered the ship. And so there's that conflict. And so with you, Christos, he should have had more stiff consequences to that behavior.
I don't think he realized he was endangering the crew. I thought he thought it would be harmless. Really do.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, because I get it. That wasn't the intent to endanger the crew, but the consequences of him not letting Starfleet do their thing when the ship was being upgraded resulted in what would have been everyone's death hadn't Una been genetically modified. I mean, think about that. Everyone would have died in that episode if Una had not been genetically modified.
I will challenge you all to a bat left battle.
Bring it. No. Anyway, so yeah, I just felt the whole thing got swept under the rug a little bit. There should have been a reprimand on his folder, on his file or something.
Was he's court-martial? He should have the medical ethics committee should be after him.
Yeah, and he even stops. Why can't I think of his name? Of course, it's like escaping me. Chief engineer
Kyle.
No.
Hemmer.
Hemmer. He stops Hemmer from doing something in the middle of the episode that might have helped the situation. Like, people are literally sick all around you and you're just your daughter's number one. But I get it. I mean, parents are going to say, hey, that's what's important. But, that's not what he swore an oath to.
Speaking of, before we just move on, just as a little sidebar, the sadness of the young, the transporter twink that I just named Kyle, he's not in season 2.
Oh,
The gays are going to riot.
he's so cute. I need to see Chief Kyle.
Yeah,
I
they've
know.
already replaced him. They have another chief coming on.
Mm.
Imagine if he's like really hot and then everyone's like, Kyle who? Be like Prime Lorca. He'll just be forgotten.
Oh,
Bring back Prime
I
Lorca.
know.
I'm still holding out that could be part of the Section 31 show.
Ooh.
Show.
Oh, please. Okay.
Jason,
that's a whole nother speculation, though.
Yeah, he'd be great in that.
Oh my gosh, so good. So good. Oh. Okay, well, let's move on to Nurse Chapel. We've sort of talked
I feel like we have talked about Nurse Chapel.
I really like her. Not as much with Spock because, I'm all to praying, but she has this innocence and hopefulness that she just beams, and she has such great chemistry with every single person that she is talking to.
I think that's really interesting that you say that, because the reason I love her so much is I think she has this underlying bubbling sadness
Yes.
that is just under the surface of everything, and that is something that I can relate to the most about her character and her sort of flippant relationships with some men and I guess women is just sort of to comfort her, and it's an adult relationship, but she isn't there to do anything long term. She just wants somebody for the night, and I think that's because she's just sad.
Yeah.
I agree. This is a person who has some work to do, who has obviously needs some time with Counselor Troy. She has got some problems and some baggage, and they're there. So she just kind of has these more superficial love relationships that kind of keep her busy, keep her occupied, but they're never really going to go anywhere until she does the work on herself, So if it's kind of like that whole, I feel like she's got to learn to love herself. It's that whole RuPaul thing. Love yourself, because if you can't love yourself, how are you going to love somebody else? I feel like
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, boys. I feel like she's not quite there yet. She's got some work to do. And I only know that because I've been there and I've seen that.
We've all been there.
I recognize that.
So do you think that, and this is me speculating, most of the people she come in contact with are just blown away by her, I guess, personality and her looks and the whole package? Like she's kind of a number. But she's used to getting doted on and whatnot, which might make her feel uncomfortable because she's, maybe she doesn't feel that way. And then you have Spock that doesn't dote on her at all and is actually just emotionally sort of void and distant. And so that's why she's more comfortable gravitating towards him, because he's not sort of, I guess, lifting her up on a pedestal that she feels she doesn't belong on.
Isn't it this just a bit like what Christos says? It's classic behavior, and I'm sorry to generalize for the gays again, but this kind of, going on the apps and getting that validation and people saying you're hot and sleeping around when really you're kind of using that because you don't think much of yourself, also has the effect of chasing people as well, because you get used to that validation. So when there's somebody like Spock who behaves differently than the rest of her conquests, she finds that all the more enticing, and the forbidden fruit and the challenge. So I recognize a lot of those behaviors, from the gay community. But I really like she was read to filth by Captain Angel when she said about all of that, don't talk to me about love, behind those cold eyes of yours. And I just thought that, that's amazing. There's a lot going on with Chapel, and she's got this people pleaser attitude of everybody like me. But it shows her vulnerability, and you all know what I think about that. So she's a complex, fabulous character.
I think that's why we like her. Yeah, she's not perfect.
Shout out to Captain Angel too. I hope they bring them back. That character was delicious.
Absolutely.
Well, let's move on to Laan Noonien Singh. So Sing. You know.
We don't need another Soong.
Oh, we do not. Yes, I will agree to that. So she was living on a colony ship that was destroyed and by the Gorn that we found out, and rescued by the USS Martin Luther King Jr. And that's where she met Unachin Riley. So there's that backstory that we learned with season 1. And I really like that because, as I said before, their relationship is complex. And, you know, we see like, well, you didn't tell me. Well, you didn't tell me, sort of at the end, and them coming together and learning to trust each other again. I found really rewarding.
I have a question about again, one of my favorite characters in the show. With the exception of that argument she has with Una, how, you know, you didn't tell me you're an augment and I was bullied for being a descendant of the augments, and there was no further explanation of the backstory with the name or the family name. So do we think that's yet to come, or was it kind of just a throwaway detail? Or it seemed like the whole Gorn side of things and the death of her brother and the kind of the defenses it's made her adopt as a person, I think that's the more interesting side of La'an that we've got. Mm-hmm. But the whole, you know, there was this big deal of announcing the name that La'an Noonien Singh, obviously such a huge part of the franchise, it just seemed a little bit fell flat for me. It doesn't mean anything.
I felt like it's another example of we didn't need something. We didn't need that aspect to her. It's overuse. It's too much fan service type of thing. We don't need that. And it brings into play some other issues potentially with canon and how much Spock or Kirk knows about Khan. I mean, it's a whole other thing. I feel like we didn't need this aspect to her, although I do potentially see it as like, you know, they've already kind of shown some testimony during that trial episode clip, like that is going to be used to potentially discredit her testimony. Maybe, I don't know, but speculation there. But I just feel like we didn't need this. She's already a good enough character with enough things about her that are interesting that we didn't need to make her a descendant of Khan, because come on, we've already did Khan. I think because of Into Darkness, we didn't need any more Khan.
Absolutely.
I went into season 1 with the expectation that this character was going to be my least favorite for pretty much all of the reasons that you guys just listed. And then in the course of the season, I learned to just ignore her last name because they made her so cool and so interesting that, now I'm looking forward to seeing more of her and seeing how they continue to develop her. But again, the last name, who cares?
Yeah. And again, I know I keep going on about what great actresses they've got on this show. Chrissy Chong is so funny. I can't wait to meet her on the cruise next year, by the way. I'm just putting that out there. But the delivery of her lines, especially in the episode where Uhura is doing rotation with security and she's the mentor, she's just so funny. I love her.
Which is funny because she has the reputation of where fun goes to die.
Yeah, her and Una.
Yep. All right. Well, what about Ortegas? We don't learn much about her except she just wants to be the best pilot, and she is just a young whippersnapper.
Yeah.
She's a practical joker.
Yeah.
So we learned that.
We don't get an Ortegas episode in season 1.
Yeah.
All of the other characters had a storyline. She was very reactionary to everything else. But that was, if you recall, it was one of the very first trailers that was dropped. The fact that the reveal is there is an Ortegas episode in season 2. So she's still quite untapped yet.
Yeah, I feel like this might be probably our briefest of the character profiles because we just don't know a lot about her other than she's very competent, very good at her job. She's kind of like the Top Gun pilot type thing. We even see that a little bit in the season 2 trailer. Mm-hmm. And then we also know that, you know, she flew a lot of missions during the Klingon Federation War that we say in season 1 Discovery. So she kind of goes back to that. We know a little bit about her there.
She's the helmsman, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So This is just interesting to me. I just thought of that, but if they make Sulu in canon gay or bisexual, and then the Discovery helmsman was bisexual or gay, and now if they make Ortegas a lesbian, that will make it so a lot of the new Trek, or at least a lot of Trek, there's been somebody of the LGBT community flying the ship. But I think that's kind of cool trivia. I don't know.
What makes you think Ortegas is a lesbian? They've not hinted anything about the sexuality.
I go back to the Illyrian Kingdom. Is that what it is? When she sort of was having the flirty relationship with Una, and
she was
I don't know.
Playing a male character though.
True.
So I don't know if that messes things up.
I'm just getting vibes. That's all. I wouldn't be surprised.
You know how we used to say back in old Trek, in 90s Trek, that person reads gay or is coded gay.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what Mark's picking up on there.
Yeah,
so
maybe.
We'll see. We'll have to wait and see.
But that it just goes to show, isn't it? It's such an untapped character that there's still so much to see. And I'm fine with that. You can't give everybody the screen time that they deserve. And it just gives us something to look forward to for season 2.
Well, we did learn because of her friendship with Chapel that she was warning Nurse Chapel, don't get involved with Vulcan relationships because they're going to make you fight with a Lurpa. And she has the scars to prove it. So I want to learn about how she got those scars and what Vulcan gave them to her.
It's all little surface things, but hopefully we're going to see more of that in season 2.
Yeah. All right, Uhura. What do we learn with her?
I feel like she's like the one I was probably one of the most excited about when Strange New World started, because I'm definitely on the camp of, I'm a big Uhura fan, and we never got enough of her in TOS. And even the movies, she sometimes doesn't have much to do. Star Trek 3 and 4, I'm looking at you. She gets these little scenes, but not part of the actual adventure that guys are going off and doing. So the fact that we're seeing this Uhura kind of go through her own journey during season 1, where she kind of goes from being this cadet that doesn't know if she even wants to be in Starfleet, she doesn't know her place, which is sometimes younger people just don't know what they want yet. And to kind of by the end of the season being more like, no, this is where I need to be. And her relationship with Hemmer being this thing that really helps her open up and develop, and the loss she feels with Hemmer's death, but he really helped her to discover who she is, and and how she needs people instead of avoiding people. And I loved it.
Having her backstory be written more to mirror Nichelle Nichols' own life and backstory, with almost quitting Starfleet as an allegory for sort of almost quitting Star Trek in the 60s, and I think that was a really cool decision by the writers, and I love that little nod to Nichelle.
I never considered that, Mark. That's great.
That's what I was gonna say. Did you?
Me too.
My hand go up.
Yeah, that was a little light bulb going off in my head too. Yeah.
I told you guys I was going to fangirl all over this episode.
Well, I love where they're going with Uhura, and I want to see more. I love the Children of the Comet.
Yeah,
that's probably my favorite episode of season 1. Believe it or not.
Wow.
I watched that one. I've watched that one a few times.
Her singing voice is really good.
Yeah, I love the music and math part of that episode and how they figure things out.
Well, Christos has the scoop on the comic book series. So, Christos, tell us what you've learned and what are these comic books?
Right. So there is a 4-part comic considered canon called The Illyrian Enigma. And it is a prequel. It takes place between season 1 and season 2. It literally picks up right after season 1. So Pike and the crew are given a busy mission by Admiral April. Is it Commodore Admiral?
I think it's Commodore.
Yeah. After Una's arrest. But the senior crew is all feeling like it's their duty to help out their their crewmate, and they want to find evidence to help clear Una. And so their idea is that not much is even known about the Illyrians, and Starfleet just fears them. So if they knew more about the Illyrians and they understood them better, maybe they wouldn't fear them. So Pike and the crew set out to find the Illyrian homeworld. And then the Illyrians kind of find them. And because the Illyrians are like, they've found out that Una has been arrested and they are demanding her release. So that's interesting. And then I'm just going to move through this really fast. They kind of kidnap Spock and take off with Spock. And then the Enterprise is chasing after the Illyrian ship. And the Illyrians get to the Illyrian homeworld, which has been completely decimated by environmental. It's toxic. You can't even go down there. And so they genetically modify Spock. So he's kind of like a stone man almost. He's half man, half stone. And there's a lot of naked Spock, stone Spock in this comic book. So people, little perk there. I was not expecting when I turned those pages. We'll take it. Nice butt. Anyways, Spock's down on the planet and he finds the only thing left on this planet is this monument that looks very Vulcan. And so he goes in there and he finds this stone, like crystal, which forces him to like kind of relive memories. It was kind of like that whole Picard episode with the season 5, the big one.
Oh, the Inner Light.
Inner Light, yeah. It's so Inner Light the way, thank you. So he has this very Inner Light type experience where he's suddenly back in Illyria before it went completely environmentally toxic. And these are pre-Zurich Vulcans. They have not found logic yet and whatnot. And so Spock's living all this, and we find out that it was the Vulcans that brought genetic manipulation to the Illyrians. They hadn't even considered it. And the Vulcans had started experimenting on very, very, very savagely experimenting on the Illyrians. And the Vulcans just didn't care then. So long story short, too late. Pike goes down there in his suit and he has 5 minutes before everything is going to go away. And they rescue Spock and Chapel and Mbenga put Spock back on the path of being normal again. They de-genetically modify him. And it comes to find out, the Vulcans did this, and the Vulcans are really embarrassed by it. And there's no record on Vulcan about it because they go to Vulcan to kind of figure this out. And the Illyrians are like, oh, we didn't even know this about ourselves. It was Vulcans, but this fundamentally changes who we are. So the Illyrians insist that in the Vulcans, this whole thing gets swept under the rug by the end of the comic books. But we now know it's the Vulcans that did this. And the Illyrians aren't quite who we think they are. And I really feel like this is going to play into how, the other big thing is it is revealed that there are other Illyrians serving in Starfleet that Starfleet doesn't know about. Una was not the only one. So that I feel like there are some kind of getting now the speculation. I'm feeling like stuff like that's going to come to light during the trial, and things like that are going to be why maybe Illyrians get a pass with the genetic.
Yeah. I could see that. Yeah.
So what I thought was going to be just a stupid little comic book series that obviously can't have too much value, there was a lot of detail in there. So I was well worth the read.
I wish I'd have read the comic series now rather than the novel that takes place between season 1 and 2, because I hate to admit it, I didn't really enjoy that novel. It wasn't really up my street.
Neither did I, but I tore once I started this first comic book yesterday, I got through them just like that. It was very, so you can get those digitally also too. So you don't, if you really, I kind of gave it away, but they've been out for a few months now. So spoilers. That was a synopsis, but there was a lot there.
All right. Well, let's run down our Ready Room spoilers. I didn't know there was a Ready Room. Yeah,
there was a special, just dropped yesterday morning. It's on YouTube and it's on Paramount Plus. If you go into the extras under, not Ready Room, but you have to go into the extras.
Right.
That was dumb.
It's a little 22-minute Will Wheaton hosted kind of like a lot of what we're doing today. A little look back at season 1 and a little look forward at season 2. New interviews with Anson Mount and
Ermine.
Yes. And Spock and Ethan Peck. Okay, so they talk about mighty big swings, and we've heard Anson Mount talk about big swings, and Akiva Goldsmith is on there, and they're talking about doing something that they've never done before in Trek. And they cut immediately to showing some lower decks footage. Of course, that's something we've never done, is blur animation into reality.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's what they're talking about here, folks. I really, really don't. My takeaway, and we'll jump and start blending some title speculation into here now. But episode 9 is called Subspace Rhapsody, and we all know that, not all know, but it's also been teased that for episode 9, all the actors were rehearsing 24/7, including coming in on the weekend when they didn't need to be. I think episode 9 is a musical episode.
That would be so amazing.
Ooh, well, yeah, because there's a lot of singers in the cast. I know Christy Chong is a great singer.
Well, and Una.
Yeah.
So we had a whole short track
Celia.
with Spock and
Yeah.
Una. Yeah. I think episode 9 is going to be our first musical episode of Star Trek.
Wow.
Ever. And everything is pointing to it.
Yeah.
What do y'all think of that? Are we?
I liked it when Buffy did it in that episode, and a lot of people always hark back and remember that. But I can kind of see what social media will be like with all the kind of gatekeepers saying this is horrendous. But even if you look at the Illyrian Kingdom episode, that was a fun romp, and it was very original series. You could imagine the original series having done this, and it would have been accepted. Yeah. So it's very Strange New Worlds to do something this silly.
Everything
great
like
sci-fi.
You're right. You talk about big swings. You talk about, everyone was working really hard, rehearsing more than they normally do. You would have to, especially if they're if they're doing some choreography and things like that. There's just so many things that point to the fact that this is a musical episode, and I'm going to go out there. I'm highly confident. Mark,
I just want to say on that topic of the comment about the mighty big swings, I think that, in my opinion, that's what Trek is to me when I think about watching TOS, or I watch TNG or Voyager, Deep Space Nine. I mean, Amy and I have had way too many conversations about our love for the Joe Menosky episodes. The really weird crap that they throw at us. That's a big swing, like masks. I mean, the whole ship turns into this temple and whatever, and Data is like every villager, and it's just a very weird episode. But those are all the ones I want to put on. The Royale, who everybody hates the Royale, but I love it. It's one of my favorite Trek episodes. I've watched that already 3 times this month. I mean, I keep putting it on before bed. It's a fun episode. So give me more of that. Like, I love that. I'm so excited.
From Amy? I know we've got the Amy, we've got the episode lists here with all the titles. I think it has been teased which episode is the Lower Decks episode in season 2. Yeah, season 7. So with it being called Those Old Scientists, that could infer that is Mariner and Boimler talking about the past old scientists such as Spock. So there's the time difference. Is this going to be a Lower Decks episode looking back at Strange New Worlds, or it's obviously a Strange New Worlds episode, but are Mariner and Boimler brought back in time, or are they looking back at, or is it like a bit holodecky? And we just don't know, and I love that. So
yeah, and I just
want to know more. I just want to know. Yeah, I want the episode. I don't want all the spoilers.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, so like right now, I'm not going to lie, listeners, like 7 and 9 are probably the ones I'm looking forward to the most. And I hate that because I don't want to like miss good things in the early episodes because I'm wanting the season to go too fast so we can get to 7 and 9. So I don't know, 7 of 9. So there you go,
Yeah.
7 and 9. But Amy, I wanted to hear your thoughts. What do you think about the idea of a musical episode? You didn't quite get your
I
thoughts on that.
absolutely love it. What was that? I mean, I just watched it on Paramount. Mark, help me. Was it Foundation or Extrapolation? And Diggs did that musical episode or a little musical. He did Singing in the Rain. I think it was Extrapolations on Apple. Anyways, I find them way more endearing when they just pop in, do a little musical, and then that's it for the whole season. So I am very much looking forward to it. And it's funny you mentioned the Kingdom episode that reminds you of TOS. Like for me, it reminds me of TNG Cupid. Like it's just a fun little romp, and you get to see the characters play someone else, which is always fun. So yeah, I'm really interested. One episode, number 5, is called Charades. So I'm interested in that. Like, I really feel like it's going to be another alien race that we have to try and communicate with. And you know me in communication, I just love it.
Little Darmok.
You don't
Yeah.
think that it's going to be an issue with the universal translators going down for some reason? Because that's what I was thinking.
Not again.
Yeah. I
We've
mean,
also
yeah,
got-
that Darmok, that's another Joe Manowski. And it's like, how do we communicate? And so charades could totally tie into that.
Number
Yeah.
2 of the episode list for season 2 is called Ad Astra per Asperia. And I looked that up, and it means to the stars through hardships. Now, I am calling it right now. This is the episode where we found Una sort of on the planet after the shuttle crash. Her entire family had died in a shuttle crash. And I think that this is her sort of dealing with that. And I think this is the episode where the crew crash on that planet.
Yeah. I think I had already heard that episode 2 is where this court drama takes place.
Oh.
So it might
You don't think
be
it's the Broken
connected.
Circle?
No.
Hmm.
Nope. Broken Circle is up. It's an adventure. Go ahead, Kelvin.
I was not going to say it out loud, but I said offline I had heard spoilers.
Oh, yeah. He knows. I'm just talking about things I've heard in interviews and things like that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's so. It's almost like we almost know a little too much, but
Yeah.
it's
Well,
gonna be-
let's just say it in a different way. There's 2 things that need to get sorted out immediately at the start of the season. They need the courtroom drama with Una, and they need La'an to come back because she left at the end of season
Right.
1, if you recall. So we need to
Right.
get La'an back. So which of those 2 stories is going to come first, and which is going to come second?
And we need a new engineer.
Indeed.
Oh, yeah.
I will say on the episode list, number 10 is Hegemony.
Yeah.
And rewatching the trailer, the teaser trailer that's available for everybody, so this is not a spoiler. When they show that town that looked very 20th century town, the ship that's coming out of the clouds, that's a Gorn ship.
Oh yeah,
And they're
Yeah,
called
yeah.
the Gorn Hegemony anyway. So
Yeah. So they're saving that one for episode
Okay,
10.
so the
looks like.
Gorn are the Borg of Strange New
Yeah.
Worlds.
Strange New Worlds.
So
I'm
Sounds
fine
like
with that.
yeah. So episode 3 is titled Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. What if we get another cause and effect type of episode?
Ooh.
Woo!
I'm not
gonna bring-
usually a fan of do-overs, but if it's cause and effect and if it's done correctly, yes, please.
Yes.
If they bring back Gates McFadden to figure it all out, that'll be perfect. No, yeah, I liked. I mean, obviously, Cause and Effect is a really one of my top 10 TNG episodes. So yeah, I would love to see some sort of homage to that. But obviously, it needs to be enough of its own thing. But I do like the idea.
So, Mark, with what you said with episode 10 being the Gorn, do we think episode 8, Under the Cloak of War, might be, that we're going to get like a 3-parter at the end of the season?
No.
Okay.
I think Under the Cloak of War, that's the one that we'll see the Klingons in.
Oh,
Oh,
Is my
yes, I
guess.
completely forgot. We've got the
Klingon War.
Klingons back.
I did see in the trailer, it's just a snippet, and I have no idea where this is going to happen, but there was a Bolian. Like Moth the Barber in TNG, there was a Bolian in the episode trailer, and I was like, okay, are we just now meeting the Bolians? Because that would be really cool to see how we were first introduced to them. But I also kind of don't think that's what they're going to do, because there was like 2 or 3 other aliens next to the Bolian, so I'm like, it might not be.
Didn't we have a Bolian in season 1? Wasn't one of the cadets that was being interrogated who did the Enterprise bingo, signing the Scorch?
Darn it, you're right.
One of those was a Bolian.
Darn it.
The one who said, Chief Kyle, he's so mean.
That's right.
I have a little theory, and I don't know where it sits in the episode list, but I'm very curious because they had Jenna Mitchell, who is the... I always get Con and Ops mixed up in classic Trek because it always seems like the same. You know, you have helm and navigation. So she's the navigator as opposed to the pilot. And she is a recurring character. She was in the Elysian Kingdom as well. And with I just think it's too similar to Gary Mitchell than it's not connected. So I think they may have done a gender swap retcon. And I think Jenna Mitchell will become Gary Mitchell for Strange New Worlds.
That's a possibility. I'll take that. I feel like people will get really upset if they do that, only because, canon. It could be, or it could be maybe it's her brother is, and that's the introduction, like that we see. Oh, my brother's visiting. Let me introduce. Blah blah blah. So.
All right. Any other titles you want to talk about?
Other than the fact that they all sound really good, and that I'm really, really, really excited for the season is probably an understatement.
I will say that there is a certain brand of biscuits or cookies, as you'd say, in the UK that are called Lotus biscuits. So when I see the title, The Lotus Eaters, I just think of someone gorging on biscuits.
And I want to, I guess, finish off this this part of the discussion of the Ready Room with a quote from Anson taken directly from his Ready Room interview, where he said, "The driving energy in Star Trek is that instinct that we have to walk beyond the campfire light to see what's out there in the darkness beyond, and do it for the sake of the tribe." And I just love that quote. That's Star Trek. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pike is Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Pike's
also
daddy.
Something I would expect an actor to say.
All right. Well, final thoughts for season 3.
2.
Very excited.
Season 2.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So final thoughts for season 2. Well, I was getting confused with Discovery season 2 as being the first anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Final initial thoughts. Timey-wimey. I'm probably just as excited now for this. Now that Picard is done and out of the way and closed down, I'm so excited for this. I think it was eclipsed by Picard season 3, and now it's the star of the show in terms of everything we've got. So I just can't wait.
I agree. Particularly when you first heard there was going to be almost a 2-month break between Picard season 3 and Strange New Worlds, I'm like, it's a 2-month break. We haven't had a break that big in a long time. But it was perfect. It was enough time to really give us all that time to process Picard, talk about it, and then the DVDs and whatnot dropped of Strange New World season 1, so people are starting rewatches and special features, and I feel like it's all had a chance to do its thing. And now, season 1 was amazing. I have really high hopes, hopefully not too high hopes, for season 2. And I'm probably more excited about season 2 than I was about season 1.
Ooh.
Well, I'm with you, Christos, to have that break. And you've heard me complain over and over why they have the season finale of 1 and the season premiere of another on the same or overlap 2 weeks like they have done. Like, that's doing that show dirty. Like, we needed the time to breathe because that Picard season 3, yeah, we needed a moment. And now we can sufficiently be prepared for Strange New World, have it be the focus. I'm so glad Paramount did give us that break. I mean, as far as podcasting goes, we needed that as well. But and you're right. Like, people, my brother just finished season 1 of Strange New Worlds, and I'm like, perfect timing because it's going to start up again on Thursday. So it was very needed, and I like that we get the focus on this, and that we got the time to focus and resolve and discuss Picard season 3.
I am very much looking forward to having another episodic show to pop in and out of in my rotation. I do gravitate a lot towards TNG and TOS, especially lately, just because with TOS, it's definitely one that I'm less familiar with, but have been getting more familiar with. I've put on a couple of times before bed. I've put on Strange New Worlds and just let it play as I'm sleeping. But there's only the 10 episodes, so I always have to sort of start with episode 1 or 2 that will be finished by the time I'm waking up. And now I can have a whole other season to put on, or put it on midway through season 1 and then have it go through season 2, whatever. But the point is, I can pop it in or out interchangeably and watch whatever without having to get emotionally invested. I can just watch it for funsies, and I love that.
Well, Kelvin, what are we talking about next week?
Well, I'm sure we just mentioned cause and effect. I'm having a little deja vu moment here. I'm sure I said this last week. So we're getting back on track with our schedule after taking a little break. We are going to be looking at Discovery's Terra Firma Parts 1 and 2 from season 4. Is it season 4 or season 3? I'm confused. Season 4. 3? Did we not have Giorgio at all in season 4? Wow, I've only just realised that.
What?
I know.
Really?
It's sad.
It is sad when we look back. So yeah, Terra Firma is the Mirror Universe episode of Discovery, where we say goodbye to Giorgio as we reconcile her storyline and she revisits the Terran Empire. So it's a double. Make sure you give yourself plenty of time. We've given you an extra week to make sure you watch parts 1 and 2. So Amy has extended the homework deadline.
Good save there.
I can't wait. I know there's a method in the madness. Yeah. I can't wait, because I think it is one of the better Mirror Universe episodes of Discovery, and a great arc and resolve for Giorgio.
Well, I'm excited to watch. Listeners, we would love to hear what you thought of today's episode, and hope you'll join our Facebook group, the BQN Collective, to continue our discussion there. You can also tweet your thoughts at AllGoodPod. Please follow the network on Twitter and Instagram at BQN Podcast. We've also partnered with our friends at Fandom Podcast Network, where you can find us by searching their master feed as well. So, Christos, where can people find you when you're not reading up on all the comics for Strange New Worlds?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at GreekGeekSD. You can find me on Facebook at the BQN Collective. And you can find me on my other little podcast, What's the T-Bev, which just came back with new episodes. Just dropped one a few days ago, and I'm recording another one tomorrow. So hopefully see a little bit of a return to form on What's the T-Bev. Kelvin, where can people find you when you're not getting genetically modified to have buns of stone?
Are you suggesting I don't have those already?
Well, actually, you do.
when I'm not doing that, you can find me on Twitter and/or Instagram at Kelvin's Timeline, or on Facebook at the BQN Collective Facebook group. So, Mark, where can people find you when you're not being filled with gone eggs ready to hatch?
Girl, it's a little personal. when I'm not doing that, people can find me in the BQN Collective Facebook group. They can also find me on Twitter at MarkWhite207. If they become a patron of the network on Patreon, I have a show, It's Green, and also launching recently, I have a show called Cinema Z, where it's a film discussion review podcast. It's a ton of fun. And Amy, where can people find you when you are not walking through the Guardian of Forever to be weighed and judged for your actions?
Oh, well, when I'm not doing that, you can find me here on the network where I'm co-hosting Galaxy Class and Union Federation. I am on Twitter at Miss Amy Nelson, but my favorite place, BQ.
At this time, we'd like to thank our associate producers, Mahendran Radhakrishnan and Tim Cooper. A special thanks to Graham Kelly for our opening and closing music, and to Mark White for our artwork each and every week.
If you'd like to help us keep all of our shows coming, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. We'll add you to the Hive Mind Facebook group. With a monthly subscription of $5 or more, you can join our meetings on the Hive Mind Roundtable discussion on the second Saturday of each month. Visit patreon.com/BQN to get all the details and watch your messages.
Thank you for listening.
We hope you'll join us
Let's research out.
All good things.
What shows are on BQN, you ask? Well, here's a rundown of some podcasts you might be interested in. All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast covering all of Trek, hosted by Amy, Mark, Christos, and Kelvin. Bargain Bin Gamer, a YouTube show hosted by Davey, a self-proclaimed gamer who specializes in reviewing and showcasing affordable video games. If you're lost in the Delta Quadrant, check out The Captain's Couch, a Star Trek Voyager podcast hosted by Jeremiah sitting on Janeway's Ready Room couch. Cinema Z, a film discussion and review podcast showcasing films you probably missed but should definitely check out, hosted by Mark, Matt, and Laz. Beam Aboard the Galaxy Class, a Star Trek Next Generation podcast covering all of TNG, hosted by Amy, Joe, Rhea, and Kevin. History with the Szilagys, a snippet of historical events from around the world, hosted by Chrissie and Jason. For the newest Trek coverage, check out Infinite Diversity, hosted by Chrissie and Thad. Test your Trek knowledge with Treksperts Quiz, a Star Trek quiz show hosted and written by Davey. Union Federation, covering all things Star Trek and the Orville, which we all know is really a Star Trek show, hosted by Kyle, Kevin, Amy, and Haley. Spill the Tea with What's the Tea, Bev, a Trek current events and fan interview show hosted by Christos. And for our Patreon members, we have the Hive Mind, BQN's monthly roundtable discussion with hosts and listeners. It's Green, a cornucopia of topics hosted by Mark, and Amy's Math Moments, a quick look at math moments in Star Trek, hosted by Amy. We know you have a choice of podcasts to choose from, and we thank you for listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Please edit that so I'm not sounding like an idiot. Thank you. Please.
Now leave it in.
Put it at the end.
Anyway, but yeah,
Okay, sidebar. We're at 50 minutes.
Yeah, I was gonna tell you, cut the whole episodes to rewatch. We could probably do without that. People, by the time this episode drops on Thursday, it's too late to rewatch anyway.
Okay. All right. So you want to go to comic books?
Yeah, I have some tea for you guys on these comic books. So,
Okay.
I mean, it's okay.
Okay.
Where he has the whole,
Picardo, Next Gen.
Picard Next Gen, season 5, where he has the whole experience and the.
So Christos, where can people find you when? Oh, I was not prepared.
Got to read ahead, Amy. Got to read ahead.
I know. I even. Oh my gosh.
You can choose anything from season 1 of Strange New Worlds.